Okay.
I'm going to stay with that, the Global Awakening 2021. And as we come into the planetary geometry, and I encourage every one of you to go out there and look at the JPL or the Stellarium or the solar system scope, whatever software you want to use to take a look at the way the planets line up. Go out to 2023 and 2024, specifically June. Take a look how those things are in a perfect square, tugging the Earth a little further from the sun. And I encourage you to go back in history and just, there's a play button where you can go forward, you can go faster, you can go slower into the future and the past. And go back in the past and try to find that same exact square again. You're going to have to go back to 79 AD to find that same planetary geometry. So if we're talking about cycles on, thousands of years, and the planets rule everything. I mean, you just talked about Isis. We're talking about the planets, Zeus, Apollo. The planets were what ruled this world, and they still are.
Now, we were discussing some things off the air that has us both definitely worked up pretty good, but we're going to work through this together, folks, because our minds are more powerful than anything. So we need to know about what's going on. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is not bliss. And I'll tell you, with the global changes as fast as they're happening and the cyclical events connected to things that we have seen with our own eyes 10 years ago, like 10, 12 years ago, what is it going to be like for 2020? Well, who better to bring on the show than Mr. David DuByne? David, I know you're super busy. It's very late where you're at.
But this Tartarian society, what they call is mansions. You need to look for these keyword mansions. These things are so eloquently and the design on this is so far above anything we've ever replicated since that time. They always suddenly have fires in them and need to be destroyed. And there's always some random burning in this part of the city where the whole thing needed to be razed and everything needed to be destroyed in that city. And go back in history and take a look at a few of these images of the mansions, the castles, and especially I encourage you to look at Tbilisi. Take a look downtown at that cathedral in there. When you see that and you start to think about it as an energy emanation point, and go ahead and take a look at Dubrovnik in Croatia, and take a look in Zadar in Croatia, and just jump around the planet and see all these different places that, especially the Caucasus, like Armenia and Georgia, these places still have a lot of the old tech because they never kowtowed to the UN. So most of what the older, what would have been a Tartarian, empire technology, that's still what we could refer to as cathedrals, etc. There's a lot of it in Georgia and Armenia. I'm actually planning a trip out to Georgia. I've been invited out there to go take a look at this Tartarian society and go through Armenia and Georgia, go back to Croatia, take a look at Slovenia, and go down into Montenegro. And I think that's where I'll end the trip at that point. But I've been invited to take a look at some of this tech. And once you see it, it's everywhere. I tell you, my personal opinion, you can agree to, there was a global society, interconnected. And when you look at these old buildings that were in the United States in the circa super early 1800s or late 1700s, they look exactly like the European buildings, but they've all had raising amazing fires in them. They all had to be destroyed. They could never rebuild it. See, that's the whole thing. They could never rebuild it. So if the technology gets better every successive generation, then why couldn't they simply rebuild some of these things? And I'm telling you right now, the Notre Dame Cathedral will never be rebuilt to the restoration, to the opulence it ever was, because we don't have the tech to rebuild it to that point. That Notre Dame Cathedral was part of the old society. That's part of Tartaria as well. It'll never be rebuilt. And take a look in England, take a look in what the kings and queens owned, because if you had that tech, you would still be a king and a queen on this planet. And Tartaria is very real. It was a global civilization. And I'll leave it there. So thanks, Rex, for letting me ramble.
No, dude, that's great, because what you're talking about this is all new information to me. And I love it when I get these mind gems and this mind candy. This is wonderful. But I wanted to actually even add something to the description. You are calling this you say you don't like to use the term mud flood. You like to use the term, what was the term again?
Global liquefaction event.
Global liquefaction event. Okay, so let's talk about it. I'm going to write it down here real quick. Event. So with it being a global liquefaction event, And a lot of volcanoes right now seems to be more active. The volcanoes around the world more active than previous years. Especially, let's talk about the Steamboat Geyser. Do you think that the Steamboat Geyser broke another record this year? And it broke last year's record. And we've still got a few months to go. And then before 2018, I think it was all the way back in 1964 when they had as many eruptions. But it's just been really active since 17. This year, it's already broken the record. 3 more months to go. Is it all connected, this liquefaction? And do you see it getting worse?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we're going into this grand solar minimum. There's a very 100% statistical correlation of volcanic eruptions and tectonic events going on with every single grand solar minimum. This is peer-reviewed research. This is not by any means just a conjecture guys talking here. Peer-reviewed research, thousands and thousands of documents that you can find. Use a PDF search engine and put in something like a search term, correlation, galactic cosmic rays, grand solar minimum, volcanic eruptions. Like that's kind of the tag words you want to use when you're looking. PDF search engine, not Google, not some DuckDuckGo or something like this for a search engine. You need to go to a specific called a PDF search engine. And those are the kind of tag words you want to put in. You get thousands of documents coming up. What they show is higher galactic cosmic rays excite the silica-rich magma chambers, which causes more volcanic eruptions. But at the same time, we're talking about squeezing toothpaste out of somewhere. These rubs on the thing, the tectonic plates are going to start. We've already seen many more, larger eruptions going on. But at the same time, when the crust is behaving so strangely, so many sinkholes, this is all happening at the same time. The squeeze is coming somewhere else. So the squeeze. Now, and also the one last thing you need to add in there is there's 3 times more water under the earth than there is above. So all the oceans and rivers and lakes combined, we'll put that as 1. There's 3 times more water under the earth in the crust than there is what we see, like the massive oceans, right? So if you're going to squeeze that, and our Earth's crust is starting to behave strangely in different tectonic events, volcanic magma, everything. If you're going to squeeze that, you can for sure mix a lot of water and make mud come up. There's no magic in that. If there's 3 times more water in the crust than on top, this is where the Noah flood comes in. The Noah flood talked about water just like the earth ripping open and seas emanating from the surface, like the crust. It wasn't rain. It was partial mix, but they talked about specifically the earth would open up and water and seas would just ooze from the earth. Talk about a very light version of that, and you would get mud, not water. So, I mean, there's basis in reality for a lot of myths. Add some science on top, sprinkle in a few more cycles cosmically, solar, and then we come right back to point A again, where we have a disappeared society on purpose. Because would you want to let people know that they could have free wireless power? Or would you want to control them where they have to put a stringy grid out there of all these copper wires everywhere and you need to pay for electricity? And then imagine that if you had a larger entity that could take form inside the copper wires and jump into the 3rd dimension, you gave the host a new place to exist inside a electrical frequency of all these millions and millions of miles of copper wiring. Now they just want to bring it a step further in the 5G network and let that thing escape the copper wiring and jump into the 3rd dimension. I mean, geez, would you want people to really know there was free wireless power? I don't know. Maybe that's too deep. Maybe it's too late.
No, it's not, because we've been talking about this. I mean, another matrix sync. This is a brilliant time to discuss this. A global network of power that you can tap into wirelessly without having to use coal or petroleum or solar panels or windmills that don't really work that well anyway, that cost tons of money. That
kill all the birds. Don't kill my eagles, man. You talk about saving the bald eagle, but you put up a windmill that kills like 30 of them. Oh my gosh, like what?
I know. And see, all this stuff we're talking about, David, leads me back to one of 2 things. Whoever is controlling the planet at the top levels, the majority of it, the industries, etc., they're either not human or there's something that makes them not like most humans very much, because they don't seem to like us that much, do they? I mean, you turn on the TV and the majority of the TV is telling you about how bad you are and how you watch, how you have too much air conditioning and you eat too much meat and you have too many creature comforts. Meanwhile, the people that are projecting this are far worse and gluttonous than most rich people that are watching the crap being told that they're gluttonous. I mean, they're so far above that level. It's like It's not even in the same league, but they look at us as different because truly I can, well, let me repeat this. In my opinion, from the research that I've done, you can take the kingship back, the rulership back over 200,000 years. And it doesn't seem like they have diverted from that blueprint, from that plan. It seems like the leaders are still connected. You go all the way back to that. Your thoughts?
Well, they can talk about, oh, we fly our private jets, but we don't use air conditioning on our private jet. We just open the vent and just like get the cold air from up at 30,000 feet while we fly our private jet. I mean, come on, really? You have the lecturers flying private jets to come to lecture us. I don't kowtow to that. I have my AC on. I am enjoying my existence with the AC on. Why not? I mean, really, you have the gall to lecture us in America when you let China sit over there and pollute unchecked, really unchecked. The particulates we're talking about with the coal, the fly ash, whatever they can burn, they burn for electricity. Trash, fine. What about all the pollutants going out? How much of the plastics in the ocean is responsible from developing nations? And you have the gall to lecture us that we need to stop everything, but you don't stop or lecture anybody else on this planet about the manufacturing practices and the dirty fuel oils they burn and trash they burn. You got to be kidding me. There's no possible way. See, maybe I left the farm. I came over here to Asia to see what it's really like. And I sit in China and I've been there and I watch the pollution just emanate endlessly from the stacks. And they have the gall to tell you can't even have a straw in America. Yeah, come over here to China and tell them what to do first. And then you can maybe have 1/5 of 1/8 of a possible comment to give to me after you make China or India or anybody else out there stop their unchecked emissions into the atmosphere. Then maybe we can talk. If it's such a runaway global disaster with CO2, all commerce stops today. No more advertisements on the football games. You don't need any more new stuff. You're telling me on a football game, you don't see 30 advertisements for a new pickup truck or a new car? That's CO2. You're telling me that you watch all these advertisements that you need a new TV and a new plasma screen and you need this and you need that and new holiday. Come on, that's all CO2. If it's really such a runaway event, we should have no more advertising. There should be no more global commerce. Every ship stops now. Shut down all factories in China, in India, in America. Everywhere stops equally. But don't lecture me that we need to stop something and you let half the planet go unchecked. Come on, really? And for those of you out there lecturing at me, I'm going to lecture you back. I'm going to point my finger at you. Don't even talk to me like that. I see through your game. I see through your smoke and mirrors. I live down here in Asia. You can't play the game. I already saw the other half of I saw behind, that the Wizard of Oz. I ripped open the curtains and saw you out here. I've already seen the other side of the curtain out in Asia. Simple game of genius. Come on, man. Seriously. And they want me to stop. And you all should be thinking the same thing. You should come out to China and see what it's like. You should come out to Asia and see what the manufacturing is like. Go into Malaysia. Go down to Thailand. Go see what it's all like over here. Really? And then come back and say, you need to uncheck. And then yeah, really? I'm going to stop there before I get angry, actually.
I need to quit with the plastic straws, man. I mean, geez, I'm such a bad person. Plastic straws. Unbelievable.
David, I love your passion. I love your energy. And that's, in my opinion, what more people need is like energy. It was funny. I was reading through the comments at the beginning that we started this podcast and somebody said, is Rex on Coke? And I kind of laughed and I said, you're new here, aren't you? I'm organic. It's called life. I don't touch that stuff. If I did, I'd be a paranoid nightmare. I have no desire to touch that stuff. Coffee, super tea, that's good enough for me. I'm organic, man.
Add some coconut oil to make the caffeine last longer in your body. You don't need those chemicals in your body. You don't need that stuff. Coke, no way. Yeah, how many people have gone down on that, man? Sheesh.
Oh yeah, Anyway, so next thing that I'd like to talk to you about, first of all, is before we get into that, this is incredible information. But do you see, let's go back to the next 5 years here. 5 years, America, ice age or not? I mean, is it still going to be Starbucks still going to be out, or $7? I use that as an analogy because I think they've got the worst coffee and they charge $7 and they still make billions of dollars. It's crazy. But they do have ISIS as the icon. So she's kind of holding the fort for him. I'm wondering if she's upset about that. Anyway, where are we going to be at 5 years? Next year? Is it all going to go down next year, or are we going to be okay? Kind of like slow boil kind of deal. Slow boil. Frog in a pot, turning it up.
I'm going to stay with the same timelines I've had since the beginning of my channel, 2021, the global awakening to the crop losses we're going to experience this year. And if the planting season as predicted next year, okay, I'm going to stay with that, the global awakening 2021. And as we come into the planetary geometry, and I encourage every one of you to go out there and look at the JPL or the Stellarium or the solar system scope, whatever software you want to use to take a look at the way the planets line up. Go out to 2023 and 2024, specifically June. Take a look how those things are in a perfect square, tugging the Earth a little further from the sun. And I encourage you to go back in history and just, there's a play button where you can go forward, you can go faster, you can go slower into the future and the past. And go back in the past and try to find that same exact square again. You're going to have to go back to 79 AD to find that same planetary geometry. So if we're talking about cycles on, thousands of years, and the planets rule everything. I mean, you just talked about it, Isis. We're talking about the planets, Zeus, Apollo. The planets were what ruled this world, and they still are. And when we come back to where there's planetary geometry in a perfect square that's going to tug the Earth a little further from the sun, you think it's going to get colder? And then when we come around the other side of the sun, those planets are still pretty much in their square. So they're going to pull us closer to the sun slightly. You got to think about that. If you're going to be a global warming rah-rah person, that summer is going to be the most brutal, ferocious, roasting summer ever. But on the opposite inverse, when that Earth pulls a little bit further away from the sun, another million miles out, it's going to be like an ice age planet. Comparatively what we had before. I would expect frost and snow down in the tropics. But at the same time, the media will have you try to forget it and be like, oh, look, it's so hot this year. Well, of course, you're getting pulled closer. But on the inverse, you're going to get pulled further away, and then you're going to get pulled closer, further away. We're going to go through probably 4 successions of that. And what do you think our crops are going to do by 2028 after the 4 successions where it's going to be so brutally cold when we get pulled away in that square that our crops won't grow? Like it's going to get so cold that the ground is going to have a very difficult time thawing out in time for us to plant crops. Like in the summer when it swims around, it's going to get too hot. Those things are going to get totally baked. Perhaps our, magnetosphere will be weaker and more UV can come in. It'll fry the crops as well, and UV damage. I did a couple videos on this. There's so much ultraviolet damage on the fruit across this planet. It's unbelievable. It literally cooks the skins of the outside of the plant. And then we're going to swing back in alternating between extreme cold and extreme heat, extreme UV, extreme cold again. And do you really think that we're going to get a normal crop moving this point forward? We're not. So who lives through this? That's the question. Are you going to run to the FEMA camps and beg on your hands and knees for your family to go in there because your children are starving because we can't grow enough food on the planet? And that the only reason I talk about this is not fear. It's reality and it's a cycle. But where's your opportunity in this, and how can you possibly get through it? Well, first, you're going to need to grow your own food. Secondly, you're going to need to know how to store your food. Like, let's say I have a ton of extra food. Well, how am I going to store that so I can keep it through the winter so my family can eat? Like, what about your neighbors? What about your community? Who else is thinking that same mind frame? Who else has skill sets that they can share to come together? Like maybe, Rex, you know how to do something far better in terms of, I don't know, building something, and I have the ability to grow something and store it. You have the building edge of it for indoor agriculture. I mean, you and I coming together, skill set would be like, wow, levels up compared to one person and one person. You put those skill sets together, then you're getting that multiplicative type of, level up. And then imagine bringing 50 people, 100 people. Can you imagine skill sets of 100 people combined into trying to create the most good that we can for people moving forward to help us survive? I mean, when we get levels up on there, we're talking about multi-levels up of all these skill sets combined. I mean, what we can do right now, we're so divided into, everybody's like an accountant, but they're only an accountant in international finance, or they're accountant and they're accountant in, real estate, tax, whatever it might be. Now imagine if we were to mix that back together again, where you get 300 people with the best skill sets they have to interlace between each other to help us and help our small communities. The only way you're going to survive is a small community. But where's that government interference you're talking about again come in? Because, we can do it on our own. We can get these communities up and running again. We can have our own thriving and abundance and adaptation during this time. But the government's going to somehow come in and mess it up. They're going to try to, say, you can't do this, you can't do that. And they're just going to try to, split us again. And every time, and when I say them, I'm talking about international banking and higher levels that are really the puppet masters behind. They're not, usually, I'm going to say, public figures. They might get a glimpse of them and get a camera shot and go, oh, this person's, but they're never, you just don't normally see them in the public. Like Elon Musk, everybody knows that guy. But what about the figure behind, the third person behind that you rarely see in public ever? You never see this person. But finally, they kind of whip out one time and they get one photo of this person. You never see them in public. Those are the real people pulling the strings. So what are they going to do in interference pattern for us trying to organize our communities as we move forward? Because this food thing is real. And I'm spooked today after the interviews I had and like the private conversations I had earlier today. I sat back for almost an hour going, I was like, oh, this is not real. I mean, this can't be happening like that at this level. The people on these lists and they're doing this, and they're trying to do that. And like, well, there's a lot of interference going to be coming right now. I'm saying we can get our skill sets together to organizing communities to help us get through this. Another set of factions are out there saying, no way. They want the most loss of life possible because they can squeeze everybody in this 2030 agenda. And this is where we get into the free will universe of how powerful is your mind to overcome this, because there's vibration frequency, and our powerful vibrational frequency is getting stronger daily. They're powerful. Their power to hold you in the dark realms of the lead energy is what they call it, like the dark lead energy, lead, like super heavy dark, is diminishing daily. So we're going to reach this crossover point where our minds in the vibrational frequency higher is going to override their lead mentality. So when they talk about metal mind or metal machine, that's what they really mean, is the vibrational frequency of heavy lead being left behind as we split dimension or split whatever kind of realms and emerge out of that and use our minds to help and come together in community again. And that's what I want to be part of. In the light is where I stay. That's it.
No, my mind is not for rent to any god or government.
Yeah, perfectly said. Yeah. Rush.
Yeah, man. Now, I think the Gremlins have finally decided to jump in because the bandwidth went from good to very poor. So I guess we could wrap this up here over the next few minutes. Okay, so grow food, network, be prepared, don't be scared. Out here in Colorado, I just wanted to point out, I go visit this area called Lobo Overlook, which is by Wolf Creek, and it's about 12,000 feet elevation. You can actually drive up to it, 11,800 feet, and beautiful panoramic views. Well, I still see snow on certain peaks of the mountains that I didn't see last year. And I've also noticed a lot of snowpack peaks around Breckenridge, which is central Colorado. That's normal, but it seems more this year than it did previous. So my question is, for glacier periods and ice age periods, how long does snowpack have to stay on the ground for it to be considered a glacier? And do you see this also? And have you heard about what I'm telling you as well?
I have. I mean, you had what? 7 times the normal snowpack this year in Colorado, 14 times in some places. So if it stays through the summer and it starts to snow again, that little thing that you saw this year if it happens the same next year, that little thing will turn into something 4 or 5 times larger because it'll have more snow mass on top of it next year that won't melt either. So it'll just successively getting bigger. That's how glaciation starts. And the IPCC would be so quick to dismiss that and say, oh no. But then Glacier National Park had to remove every single sign talking about how glaciers are going to disappear because Glacier National Park, every single glacier is growing again. So you're talking about in Colorado, well, what about Glacier National Park? We've got the same thing going on there. Why did they remove all the signs and replace them? It said, because of CO2 later in the future sometime, but the previous sign said all the glaciers would be gone by 2020. But then that glacier right in front of the visitor center that said it'll be gone in 2020, that thing advanced like 17 feet in the year. So they had to remove the signs. Like what kind of, messages are we getting here? It either is science and glaciers are growing. It's getting cooler because of sulfur dioxide. We're getting more cloud cover, cosmic rays. We're in a cycle again. And it's a natural cycle. We should talk about it's nature, fine, science. Or you want to stay in a political agenda on the IPCC side and say, oh, it's going to get warmer. But it's really getting colder. But no, it's getting warmer. It's warmer. I think they want the most loss of life as they can get so they can usher in 2030 agenda here. That's the only thing I can possibly come to in the conclusion of as much information as I have now, as well as masking prior civilizations, the wireless tech that was around just even a couple hundred years ago, which makes me wonder, really, was it really around just a couple hundred years ago? And then suddenly there was some liquefaction event that prevented those systems from working? Or was it in the modern minimum in the 1600s where there was some, larger event that occurred that stopped the system from working? Or the 1300s in the sport room minimum? Or was it 2000 years ago where it stopped working? Irregardless of it was 400 or 2000 years ago, I don't care. The system was in place before to give us free wireless power. And they brought us back to this ridiculous system where we need copper wires everywhere. Why couldn't we just get the old wireless power system? Or even if it was 200 years ago, now even 100 years ago, it should have been doing twice as better because tech gets better every successive generation, right? So I don't care when this powerless wireless system went offline because of a global liquefaction event. Don't care. What I do care about is why was this tech not reintroduced and why was it supplanted with something that is far, far, far inferior tech is what I should say. It was replaced with inferior tech, and why? These are the kind of questions I'm starting to ask myself. And Rex, thanks for having me on tonight. Cheers.
Hey, cheers, David. It was an honor. And my opinion is the reasoning, control. You have to pay to survive unless you're homesteading in the middle of the woods. You got to pay to live, man. And if you're paying for energy, and if you're getting limited energy, and if you have to work a lot to get that energy, what a great way to control the masses. With free energy, abundant wirelessly, they're not getting money, and you can go out and do what you want to do. They don't want that. But you know why, folks? It's for your protection. It's because they love you so much. They love you dearly. And on that note, David, I hope we can speak again here in a few weeks to see how you are doing and what's going on in your neck of the woods, because you travel the world. Whew, I said that as fast as I can. Be the change you want to see. I'm organic.